You say you're tired of working, tired of chasing goals that never seem to get closer. So you slow down, you tell yourself you need a break, you promise you'll start tomorrow. You convince yourself that rest is the solution. But here's the truth. Most people never want to hear. Most people are not tired from working too hard. They're tired from living without discipline. They stay up late scrolling through distractions. They wake up without a plan. They move through the day reacting to whatever feels easiest. And then they wonder why they have no energy left for the things that actually matter. Because the problem isn't exhaustion. The problem isn't exhaustion. The problem is a life built around comfort instead of discipline. And until that changes, nothing else. Most people believe they are tired because they work too hard, but the truth is far different. You're not tired from effort. You're tired from living in comfort, from allowing life to feel easy when it shouldn't. Comfort is subtle, invisible, and addictive. It seems harmless at first, a small relief from stress or responsibility, but every time you choose comfort over challenge, a part of your potential quietly disappears. Your mind becomes weaker. Your focus diminishes. Your tolerance for discomfort shrinks. And eventually, tasks that should feel achievable begin to feel impossible. Think about your daily routines. How many hours are spent scrolling aimlessly on your phone, watching videos, or drifting between distractions? How many opportunities for growth pass by unnoticed because you chose the easier path? The thing is, this comfort doesn't just steal your time, it steals your strength. It trains your brain to expect life to be easy, to resist effort, and to avoid the challenges that actually build character. Every moment you avoid discomfort, your mind receives a subtle signal. This is how life should be: simple, painless, effortless. And when real work appears, when effort is required, your brain struggles because it has been conditioned to resist it. Comfort rewires your identity without you noticing. It doesn't destroy your ambition overnight. It slowly lowers your capacity for effort. The things that once felt normal now feel difficult. The things that once felt difficult now feel unbearable. This is why people who constantly chase comfort often believe they are tired. They confuse weakness with exhaustion. The reality is they have weakened themselves by avoiding challenges for years. Look at someone who consistently practices discipline. That person doesn't feel drained by tasks that seem impossible to others. They wake up early, face discomfort, and push themselves daily. They are not naturally stronger. They are stronger because they have built their tolerance through repeated action. Every disciplined choice, every small effort strengthens the mind and reinforces an identity of resilience. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes routine. What once seemed unbearable becomes manageable. The mind adapts, energy increases, and focus sharpens. Now, consider the opposite scenario. A person who constantly seeks comfort wakes up, drifts through the day, and avoids challenges whenever possible. One missed opportunity turns into another. One delayed task becomes a habit of delay. Small comforts accumulate, reinforcing an identity of weakness. The body may rest, but the mind grows tired, frustrated, and unfulfilled. The energy that should be generated by meaningful effort is replaced by a sense of constant fatigue, not because of work, but because of inactivity, disguised as relaxation. Comfort also creates dependency. You rely on instant gratification to feel good. You need external distractions to avoid discomfort. And when the real world demands effort, your brain resists. Challenges feel heavier than they are because your tolerance for difficulty has eroded. You start believing that life is hard, that motivation is required to act, and that discipline is optional. This is a trap disguised as ease. The solution is simple but demanding. Choose discipline over comfort. Each time you resist the ease option, you rebuild strength. Waking up early, completing a task despite not feeling like it, pushing through mental or physical fatigue. These actions train your brain to accept discomfort as normal. Energy grows, focus returns, confidence emerges. The body becomes an instrument of will, and the mind begins to see effort not as punishment, but as opportunity. The transformation does not happen overnight. Comfort has been shaping your identity for years, and undoing it requires consistent resistance. At first, every effort feels unnatural. Every disciplined choice feels forced, but gradually, repetition rewires your habits. The brain learns that discomfort is temporary and the rewards of persistence are lasting. Energy rises, productivity increases, and the person you thought was tired realizes they were never exhausted. They were undisciplined. The uncomfortable truth is this: comfort is not your friend. It steals your strength, your focus, and your future. Discipline is what builds real energy, real capability, and real identity. To become the person you want to be, you must embrace discomfort consistently, reject ease when it leads to stagnation, and commit to the daily practices that reshape your mind and body. Only then will you feel the true energy that comes from a life of action, not avoidance. Most people believe energy comes from rest. They think if they sleep more, relax more, and avoid hard work, their body and mind will naturally feel alive. They assume motivation will appear magically once they're ready. But that's a misconception, a lie most people tell themselves to justify delay. Real energy does not come from avoidance. Real energy comes from discipline. Discipline is the engine that produces sustainable energy, focus, and strength. It is the invisible force that transforms effort into vitality and allows you to operate at your highest capacity. Even when life feels heavy, consider the days when you drift through life without structure. You wake up late, scroll your phone aimlessly, eat without planning, and react to whatever is easiest. By the end of the day, you feel exhausted, drained, and frustrated, even though you haven't accomplished anything meaningful. This fatigue is not physical, it's mental and emotional. Your energy has been wasted because your mind was scattered, constantly negotiating small decisions. Every indecision, every moment of distraction creates friction inside your mind, and that friction slowly depletes your mental reserves. Now imagine the opposite. A person who has built discipline into their routine doesn't waste energy deciding whether to work or not. They simply follow the structure they've created. Their day has direction. Each action is intentional. The mind no longer argues with itself about what to do next because the decision has already been made. Discipline removes internal resistance, and with resistance removed, energy flows naturally. The clarity of purpose allows focus to multiply, and momentum builds effortlessly. Discipline also rewires your perception of effort. What once felt like exhausting labor now becomes meaningful activity. Completing a difficult task creates a sense of accomplishment, which produces natural motivation for the next challenge. Energy doesn't appear randomly. It is a byproduct of sustained deliberate action. The more you practice discipline, the more energy you produce, and the more energy you produce, the more discipline becomes easier to maintain. It is a feedback loop that transforms your life. Without discipline, even small challenges feel overwhelming. A 30-minute workout seems impossible. A single focused hour of work feels draining. The mind resists because it has been conditioned to avoid discomfort, but discipline teaches the brain that discomfort is temporary and necessary for growth. Each repeated action, waking up on time, completing tasks even when you don't feel like it, pushing through fatigue, strengthens the mind and body. Small victories compound into a mental resilience that sustains you even when motivation disappears. Many people mistakenly chase motivation. They think energy will arrive first, then action will follow. But this is backwards. Motivation is unreliable and fleeting. Energy comes from action, not from feelings. Discipline allows you to act consistently, even on days when you don't feel ready. Each action feeds your confidence and stamina, creating the very energy you believed was missing. Discipline is not punishment. It is the fuel that transforms potential into real results. Discipline also aligns your habits with your goals. When you consistently follow a routine of action, your body and mind adapt. Sleep improves because your body is active. Focus improves because your mind is trained to sustain attention. Confidence grows because you prove to yourself daily that you can handle discomfort. Energy is no longer random or dependent on external conditions. It becomes a reliable resource you can call upon at will. This principle applies to every area of life: work, health, relationships, and personal growth. People who achieve remarkable results rarely rely on spurts of motivation or moments of inspiration. They rely on disciplined habits that consistently channel energy toward meaningful work. Discipline converts intention into execution and transforms effort into power. It turns ordinary people into resilient, unstoppable forces because it creates sustainable energy that fuels every action. If you want to stop feeling drained, unfocused, or unmotivated, the solution is not rest. It's discipline. Structure your day. Commit to your responsibilities. Push through discomfort and follow your routines. Each repeated action strengthens your mental and physical energy. Over time, you will notice a remarkable transformation. What once felt exhausting now feels natural. What once felt impossible now feels manageable, and your potential begins to manifest in your daily life. Discipline is not an abstract concept. It is a tangible force that produces energy, focus, and power. It is the tool that allows you to turn effort into results, fatigue into productivity, and ambition into achievement. The more disciplined you become, the more energy you generate, and the more energy you generate, the more you can sustain the habits and actions that build the life you want. In short, energy is not found, it is earned. And discipline is the method through which it is created. If you embrace discipline fully, stop waiting for motivation, and start acting consistently, you will discover a source of energy you never knew existed. You will stop feeling tired because you will no longer be undisciplined. Every action, every choice, every day becomes a deposit into your personal power and vitality. Discipline transforms not just what you do, it transforms who you are. Most people believe motivation is the key to success. They think if they feel inspired, energized, or excited, then action will follow naturally. They wait for that spark, that rush of enthusiasm, that moment when life feels easy enough to pursue goals. But here's the hard truth: motivation is unreliable. It is fleeting, unpredictable, and often deceiving. Depending on motivation is like trying to sail a ship using the wind. It may appear occasionally, but it cannot carry you consistently. Real results are not built on motivation. They are built on discipline, habits, and consistency. The problem with motivation is that it creates a false sense of security. People assume that feeling inspired means they are progressing, even if no real action has been taken. Watching motivational videos, reading quotes, or planning goals can feel productive, but in reality, it's often just a substitute for effort. Motivation is temporary, tied to emotions, circumstance, and novelty. It appears when you are excited or inspired, but disappears as soon as discomfort arrives. That's when most people give up. They believe the problem was effort or ability, but the problem was dependence on a feeling that was never meant to last. Consider someone trying to build a new habit. They wake up one day feeling motivated and complete their tasks with energy and excitement. They feel powerful and productive, but the next day, motivation is gone. They feel tired, distracted, or unready. The same tasks that seemed easy yesterday now feel overwhelming. The excitement fades, and without the structure of discipline, they fail. This is why motivation alone never produces long-term results. Relying on how you feel is a trap, because feelings are inconsistent, unrelying, and often dictated by circumstances beyond your control. Motivation also deceives people into underestimating the importance of small actions repeated consistently. They wait for a big moment to start, believing they will suddenly have the energy, focus, and willpower to transform their life in a single burst. But change is never instantaneous. It comes from thousands of small, deliberate choices that accumulate over time. Motivation might get you started, but it will not sustain you. Discipline, repetition, and commitment are the true engines of progress. The strongest individuals do not rely on how they feel. They act regardless of their emotions, pushing forward, even when inspiration is absent. Another danger of motivation is that it encourages procrastination. People often say, "I'll start tomorrow when I feel ready," or "I'll wait until I'm inspired to begin." In truth, that moment rarely arrives. Motivation is like a mirage in the desert. It looks real from a distance, but when you reach for it, it disappears. The longer you wait for motivation, the longer your life remains stagnant. Every day you postpone action. You reinforce habits of avoidance and comfort. You train your brain to require a signal to act, and that signal, motivation, may never come when you need it most. The solution is simple. Stop depending on motivation. Build systems, routines, and habits that function independently of how you feel. Create a structure that allows you to act even on days when motivation is absent. Show up consistently. Follow your plan and trust that progress will follow. Each time you act without waiting to feel ready, you reinforce your ability to achieve results regardless of circumstance. This is how extraordinary individuals operate. They don't wait to feel inspired. They create action, and inspiration comes afterward as a byproduct of their consistent effort. Discipline, not motivation, produces momentum. Momentum is powerful because it does not rely on emotion. Once you establish a pattern of consistent action, energy builds naturally. Confidence increases, and success compounds over time. Motivation may trigger initial effort, but discipline sustains it. Motivation may provide a spark, but momentum is the flame that burns continuously. Every successful person understands this principle, even if it takes years to internalize. Finally, motivation is often misleading because it sets unrealistic expectations. People assume that if they feel motivated, results should come quickly. When reality does not match their feelings, frustration sets in. They blame themselves, believing they are not capable, when the real issue is their reliance on a feeling rather than a system. True progress is slow, incremental, and requires consistent effort without the promise of immediate emotional gratification. Motivation cannot carry you through the discomfort, the resistance, and the challenges that define meaningful growth. Discipline does. So, if you want to succeed, you must understand that motivation is a lie people depend on. You cannot wait for how you feel to dictate what you do. You cannot wait for energy to appear before taking action. You must build habits, enforce discipline, and commit to consistent action every day. Motivation may visit occasionally, but your results will not depend on it. Real change, real growth, and real transformation are produced by action, not feeling. When you internalize this, you stop chasing temporary emotions and start creating permanent results. You begin to understand that the person you become is determined by what you do consistently, not what you feel momentarily. Motivation is optional. Discipline is essential. Action is unavoidable. Most people think transformation happens in dramatic moments. They imagine one big decision, one breakthrough, or one day when everything suddenly changes. But real change almost never works that way. Real change is slow. It's quiet. It's invisible to anyone watching, and sometimes invisible to yourself. It comes from the repeated small acts of discipline that define who you are before anyone else can see the results. Your identity is not built in a moment of inspiration. It is built one choice at a time. Every time you resist comfort, every time you choose action over avoidance, every time you do what is hard but necessary, you are sending a message to your mind. You are telling yourself who you are, not who you hope to become, not who you wish others saw you as. Who you are becoming through repeated action. That is the essence of identity. Every choice reinforces it. Every habit strengthens it. Every small victory compounds. Think about someone who has developed real discipline. They didn't start by waking up one morning with perfect focus, unlimited motivation, and endless energy. They started by taking one small action consistently, waking up 10 minutes earlier, doing one set of exercises, completing one task they didn't feel like doing. That small action alone might have seemed insignificant, but repeated daily, it created momentum. That momentum slowly reshaped their identity. The person who once avoided discomfort began to see themselves as capable. The person who once procrastinated began to see themselves as dependable. The person who once waited for motivation began to see themselves as someone who acts regardless. Small discipline is powerful because it attacks the foundation of identity. When you perform consistent actions that reflect who you want to become, your brain begins to internalize that identity. Habits are not just routines. They are votes for the type of person you are. Each act of discipline reinforces that identity, and over time, the old, lazy, distracted version of yourself loses power. It doesn't disappear overnight, but it weakens steadily with every choice that contradicts it. This is why small, consistent actions are more important than rare, extraordinary efforts. Big actions can inspire you, but they rarely change who you are. Small actions repeated daily do. They teach your mind that you are the type of person who shows up, who finishes what you start, who chooses growth over comfort, who prioritizes progress over ease. Your identity shifts quietly but inevitably, and your life follows. Identity and action are inseparable. The person you believe yourself to be determines the choices you make. But you can also invert this process. The choices you consistently make determine the person you become. Every disciplined act, no matter how minor, is a vote in the direction of your future self. This is why people who focus solely on goals often fail. Goals are outcomes. Identity is the foundation. Without building the identity of someone who can achieve those goals, the results are temporary at best. Small discipline builds permanent transformation because it changes the system that produces the outcomes. It's important to understand that this process is invisible at first. Nobody will notice the effort you put into waking up early, completing your tasks, or resisting the urge to take the easy path. And that is the beauty of small discipline. It doesn't seek attention. It doesn't crave recognition. It silently reshapes your brain, rewires your habits, and strengthens your character. In time, your identity changes so profoundly that the results you once desired naturally follow. Success, focus, resilience, and confidence are byproducts of this ongoing internal work. The moment you embrace small discipline, you stop depending on motivation, inspiration, or external validation. You stop waiting for a perfect opportunity. You stop blaming circumstances or your environment. Instead, you focus on the small, repeatable actions that define your character. And when your identity aligns with your goals, you don't need motivation to act. Discipline becomes effortless, resistance weakens, confidence strengthens, your life changes, becomes the person you are has changed. Every choice matters. Every act of small discipline is a vote for the future version of yourself you want to become. Skipping that one habit, giving in to comfort, or delaying action may feel harmless, but over time, these choices define the opposite identity, the version that procrastinates, avoids and excuses. Conversely, small daily acts of discipline compound into the identity of someone capable, resilient, focused, and unstoppable. The difference between stagnation and growth is not in one decision, but in the countless small decisions you make consistently. So, if you want to build a new identity, start with small discipline. Make the hard choices quietly, every day, even when nobody is watching. Choose action over avoidance, effort over comfort, growth over convenience. Each action strengthens the person you are becoming. Over time, the old version of yourself loses control and a new identity emerges naturally. And when that new identity becomes your default, your life will follow. Small discipline is not glamorous. It is not exciting. Is not instantaneous, but it is far more powerful than motivation, inspiration, or luck. It is the true engine of transformation. It creates the identity that drives every choice, habit, and outcome in your life. Every time you practice discipline, you are not just performing an action, you are building a person capable of achieving anything. And that is the secret to lasting change.